Does Tree of Life break my views on story? Let's find out today. Hey everyone, and welcome to another video, and we're gonna get into Tree of Life today and take a look at whether or not it actually follows some of the views that I have on story, or whether it completely exists outside of it and doesn't follow my theories at all. Let's take a look. Now, first off, I'm gonna tell you one important thing. Tree of Life does not follow story circle structure. Right? It does not follow it. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, well, it means that there is something else that is the core of story, right? That a structural flow may not be the core of story. There might be something else that creates that fundamental base layer of what makes a story work. And we're going to find out in Tree of Life what that is. So 2 minutes into the film, we get this line.
The nuns taught us there are two ways through life. The way of nature and the way of grace. You have to choose which one you'll follow.
So before we even get into a discussion about structure or traditional Hollywood filmmaking, one of the first lines of the movie explains the theme and explains the two philosophical viewpoints at odds with one another. So you hear me talk about two things on this channel a lot: story circle structure, right? And philosophical conflict, right? Beliefs in conflict, viewpoints in conflict. And if you listen to what is said at the very beginning here in that line, immediately the film sets up what the two viewpoints are. You have the way of grace versus the way of nature. Now, what does that actually mean, and how do we break that down more specifically to have an understanding of what's being said here? 3 minutes in, the film literally attaches these two viewpoints clearly to the mother and father characters.
Grace doesn't try to please itself, accepts being slighted, forgotten, disliked. Nature only wants to please itself. It finds reasons to be unhappy when all the world is shining around it.
The mother is the character of grace. She is the character of forgiveness, of joy, love, mercy. She is the character that is living in the present. She is the character that is having this deep appreciation for life and living life. On the other side, we see the father. He is the character of nature. The film says he is the character of pleasing itself, getting others to please him too. He likes to create rules. He likes to find reasons to be unhappy. So think about this for a second. We are 3 minutes into this film, right? 3 minutes in, and it has clearly established that there are two differing viewpoints on how our characters are living life, essentially two paths, two viewpoints, a philosophical conflict that then our character, Jack, will have to decide what he will follow. Many times writers think the thing that needs the most work in their screenplay is the structure. But usually this isn't true. In fact, usually you haven't set up the meaning of your story yet. So no matter how well it works structurally, it isn't pulling at the heart of your audience. And you have to remember that your goal is not to make a great screenplay. Your goal is to tug at the heart of those who view your film. Okay, so let's jump forward a bit and we get to the creation sequence in Tree of Life. It comes about 20 to 25 minutes into the film. And what this is doing, the purpose of this sequence, is to show us the beauty of life, right? This story is about appreciating, understanding, and seeing the beauty of life in front of you versus getting caught up in the other elements, right? Getting caught up in the problems, getting caught up in being critical, getting caught up in your work or your job or these sorts of things, right? What the film terms as the way of grace versus the way of nature. So then what we see in this creation sequence is all of life, right? We see this beautiful display of life in the universe and all this stuff, and we have this long sequence to then come into Brad Pitt's character, the father, sitting at the table being upset about nothing, being critical about nothing, right? And that is the dichotomy. That is the dichotomy that the film is setting up. It's setting up this expansive understanding and appreciation for what life is and what nature is and these sorts of things. And then it's contrasting that with the seeming pettiness of some of the rules and the criticism and the over focus on things that ultimately don't matter in this grand, beautiful scheme.
What about the yard? Did you put the runners in like I asked?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, it didn't look like it.
That's the point of the movie. That's what the film is trying to say. And the way that it does this is by setting up this dichotomy between the mother and the father, and then placing young Jack in between so that there is one big ultimate choice that is being made constantly, right? Who is he going to sort of follow behind? Who is he going to model his life after? You know, what's the thing that he's going to take away from these two people as we go forward? So then if we jump about 54 minutes into the film, we get this other good contrast. We see Jack's mother, and she is full of life, she is full of joy, and that's what we are attaching to her character. Then you'll notice that the film contrasts this visually with the father's world, right? He works at the plant. He works at the place of industry. He works at the place of gray metal, right? And that, again, right, is showing us this back and forth, this question, this choice that the film is setting up. It's not doing it with story circle structure. It's not doing it with some of the things that I've laid out, but the story still has a clear, important philosophical dilemma between two major viewpoints, and ultimately that is what creates the core conflict of the story and is why the film works, right? So what happens is people think about conflict as characters standing around arguing in a room, and that's not truly what conflict is. That is a version of conflict, but really what conflict is what we see in Tree of Life, right? We see two essences or views on how to live, and then we have characters kind of stuck in between those two views on what they will do and how they will live with the examples that are set out in front of them. Nearer to the end of the film, almost 2 hours in, we get another good moment about this dichotomy, where the father loses his job at the plant. And this is kind of where he has this moment of existential crisis, because he has devoted so much time to his work, so much time to being there, and now it's been taken away from him, and now he is caught in this choice again of, have I made the right choice? Following the path that I did follow, was this the right choice? And now he feels this regret, now he feels this confusion, right? And so then we have young Jack, his son, seeing this confusion and starting to empathize with his father, because now he is seeing that his father was trying to do his best, and he went the path that he went down. Some of it worked and some of it didn't, right? But now that he's more open, now that he's sort of seeing where his life has taken him, he is able to connect with his son a bit more. And then we have this beautiful line that is whispered by young Jack that again shows us the core philosophical conflict in the film.
Father, Mother, always you wrestle inside me. Always you will.
That is the philosophical conflict of Tree of Life. So now that you can see this, this is a clear example of where story circle structure or traditional Hollywood structure does not exist in the film, but it still works and it still hits people in their heart because of the key philosophical dilemma that is taking place in the story, right? So what I see a lot of times from screenwriters is that they are focused on all these other pieces and really working on honing that structure, really working on honing their dialogue, really working on making sure their scenes are flowing, but they're forgetting that philosophical dilemma, right? They're forgetting that piece that is going to connect with your audience more than any other piece, and that is the struggle of choice. That is the struggle of how we will live and what choices we will make that will ultimately create who we are. That is the core purpose of a story, even outside of films, right? That is why we tell stories. And this is what you can see in Tree of Life. This is what makes it a fantastic film. And it absolutely does not follow story circle structure, but it definitely follows two philosophical viewpoints in conflict. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one to fix every major problem in your feature-length screenplay, then click the link below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.